gotta come back with me. Where? Back to the future.
Hey, Doc, you better back up. We don't have enough road to get up to 88.
Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads.
Like DeLorean?
Blast from the past. Yes, thank you. We're doing a blast from the past. Another blast from the past. I had a lot of fun doing these, and just talking about the things that I grew up with in the 70s and the 80s and the movies and the music and everything was so cool. It was just there was no other time like that. I mean, it was the best time. I gotta tell you, I had a wig. I was gonna wear a wig for this one, right here. But man, I'll tell you what, because long-haired bands of the long-haired bands, and maybe I'll put it on a little later for you. But these things are so freaking hot. They make you sweat, boy, I'll tell you. But I was gonna put this on here. But anyhow. I love talking about this stuff, doing the blast from the past. A lot of people seem to be liking it and everything, and bringing back some of the memories and everything, because you can't forget who you are, where you came from, and all that kind of stuff. You just can't forget it, man. Because first of all, the 70s and 80s, as I've said, was the greatest music, that we had, that there has ever been in quite a long time. So hold on to your hats. 1.21 gigawatts. We'll talk about that a little later. But the music was so cool, man. And it's funny because I talk to these younger kids and matter of fact, I just sold some of my vinyl albums, and this kid, I say kid, he's probably in his I would say late 20s, and we got talking, and he was like, yeah, man, that's all I listened to was the music, for back then and all, man. It was so much different, and he says, I don't know why, man. I don't know what was what the deal was with the music back then versus the music today, man. But it was just so much better back then. And I think I may have said this in the last video, but I said to him, I said, let me tell you something. The music back then was better because the guys, first of all, they were their own band. They put their heart and soul into their music. They played their own music. They wrote their own music. They wrote their own lyrics, and they earned what they did. They didn't just get discovered, and boom, they're a star tomorrow. You know what I mean? It was, these guys, they would start off playing in their local pubs and things like that, in the bars, and then they went to bigger places and bigger places and bigger places, and and then a lot of the songs they wrote actually while they were on the road, traveling from one concert to the next, in between the shows. Like I said before, I think Journey, Faithfully, was written on the road on the tour bus, and so was Open Arms, and a bunch of these bands wrote a lot of their songs while they were actually in the middle of touring. It was that's just the way it was done. And they wrote about things that they experienced firsthand, and see, that's the difference. You got these kids today that are out there singing these songs, but they don't have the real meaning behind it. They don't have the real feeling, behind it, and they just don't. I mean, Roger Waters' Brick in the Wall was one of the greatest selling albums of all time, by Pink Floyd, he really lived all that stuff, and he felt it, Great movie, by the way. Great movie, by the way, over here. Brick in the Wall, yes. The good video for that song. It's a really good video, too. It was really, really cool. I liked it, when the movie came out, it was so cool. I actually have the movie on VHS, and I actually have it on DVD as well. CD, DVD. But it was so cool. So the music, man, was just, you just can't beat it, Then we've got, Van Halen, Jump, I mean, you weren't alive in the 80s, man, the late 70s and early 80s if you didn't know, Jump by Van Halen, I mean, on Van Halen songs, they had so many good songs, man. One that everybody used to love was Hot for Teacher. Hot for Teacher. Yes, I'm hot for teacher. I brought my pencils. That was a good one, though. Hot for Teacher. Yeah, man, that one was, I love that one. So we had the music we had back then, man, was just, the 70s and 80s was great, and you couldn't beat it because these guys, I mean, just, it was just them, these long-haired bands, the long-haired bands of the 80s, man, they were great bands. I mean, they were really good. They had a lot of stuff, Twisted Sister, you play that twanger. What do you want to do with your life? I want to rock. Dee Snider. I met Dee Snider in person. Really, really nice guy. Very, very cool guy. I actually hung out with him for a little bit. He was really, really a very cool guy. I'll tell you another guy that I met too. I hung out with. Actually rode a bike together with Danny Bonaducci. He was came out and was doing a show thing, a biker show, and he came out, and really cool guy. I mean, he's actually a nice guy. He's not, he was a really, really nice guy. We hung out for a little bit and talked, chit-chatted a little bit, He got on his bike, I got on mine, we rode around a little bit, so it was kind of cool. But, the music, man, was great back in the 80s. It was so great. It was so good, I mean, you just can't, I don't know, you just can't beat it. Man, you really can't. Music was just awesome music, and even the movies. Now, the movies were just as good. I mean, we had some awesome movies, man, let me tell you. The movies of the 80s, late 70s, early 80s, even into, the late 80s, I think maybe the 90s, were just the best movies you could watch. I still love watching them. And I'm talking about, like I did in the last video, we had The Breakfast Club and, Pretty in Pink, 16 Candles. What's funny was the same guy, John Hughes, wrote a lot of those movies himself. We're talking The Breakfast Club, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, 16 Candles, Pretty in Pink, Uncle Buck, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, Weird Science, Home Alone movies, 1, 2, 3. Another good one that didn't get a whole lot of recognition, but it was a very good movie, which was called Some Kind of Wonderful. That movie was awesome, man. It had trying to think of her name now. Leah Thompson. Leah Thompson was in it. Leah Thompson was great in it. And the blonde with I didn't like her haircut, the real short haircut. She was his best friend in Some Kind of Wonderful. Her name was Mary Stuart Masterson. Oh, she was so hot. I just thought she was so cute, man. And I was like, oh, why can't Eric Schultz see that she is in love with him, man? That was a good movie. Some Kind of Wonderful. But John Hughes did all those movies. He did the Vegas Vacation and Chevy Chase's Vacation. He did so many movies, but I think what made them so good was that, I don't know, it was like a coming of age, teenage, coming of age movies that were so cool, and of course the ones that, Some Kind of Wonderful is one of my favorites, and Weird Science, and Pretty in Pink, 16 Candles, The Breakfast Club, Ferris Bueller, Uncle Buck was a good movie too. But those movies with Molly Ringwald and Anthony Michael Hall and Judd Nelson and all them were just they were so cool. You know what I mean? They were the ultimate classics. They really were. Now I'll tell you another movie that really did not get a lot of recognition and I don't think really got the notoriety that it should have. But it was an awesome movie, and it was a movie that it was called Last American Virgin. What a movie, I'm going to tell you. It was another coming-of-age movie, and it was... I swore when I saw that movie it was written... I'm like, okay, they must have cameras on me because that's my life right there. I was like, oh man, that was me, Gary. I was Gary in the movie, I was that guy that the girls would always go after to make their other boyfriends jealous and things like that. And it was a crazy... Spoiler alert. If you haven't seen the movie, go watch it. But I'm going to do a spoiler alert here, so you might want to... If you've never seen the ending, you might want to mute your... just for about 2 seconds here, 2 minutes. But the ending of the movie, oh my gosh, the ending, I was like, are you kidding me? I couldn't believe the ending. The ending of that movie was crazy, but when she walks in, or he walks into that party, he goes and pawns more stuff and walks into the party, and he has that necklace for her, and he couldn't find her. He's like, where's Karen? And he walks into the kitchen. He opens up the door and looks, and you just see it in his eyes. You see the hurt and the pain in his eyes. And the lights go down a little, and then the song starts to play. Now, I'm going to tell you something. The music in this movie, you would swear, was written for the movie. But, these songs were out long before the movie was. But, they had Open Arms by Journey, it just so many good songs in that movie. Just Once was great, and that was the song that started playing. You hear that piano start, and you're like, oh man. As soon as he opened up that door and he looked, and you saw his eyes start to tear up, and you hear that music start to play from Just Once, I knew right then what he was seeing. Don't ask me how. I just knew it. I knew it because I'm telling you, that was written about me. And I was like, oh wow. And the ending, man, he goes out, he was standing there, he's looking at Karen, looking at his buddy Rick, and they're embraced, after all that crap he went through for her, because of him, because of his buddy. And she ends up with his buddy, and the good guy always loses. The good guy comes in last, right? He goes out to his car, he starts to drive, excuse me, and the music's still playing. I did my best, but I guess my best wasn't good enough. But here we are back where we were before. And you just see the camera on him, and he's driving, and then the credits start to roll. And as soon as I saw the first credit come up, I was like, no, you can't end the movie like that. I'm like, come on. I was devastated, and I kept waiting for a part 2 to come out because I'm like, there's no way, because I was really engulfed in the movie when I was watching it, because it was just it was a really cool movie, and I thought, man, and all that he did for her, and she ends up at the end with the guy that got her pregnant. I'm like, oh God, really. So that was a really cool movie. But the movies and stuff from the 80s, and the music, man, you just from the late 70s and 80s, you just can't get away from it. You can't deny that they were the best times for movies and TV shows and everything we had. And of course, we can't talk about that time and talk about all these movies without bringing up another great movie from I think it came out in 1978 with John Travolta and Olivia Newton-John, and we're talking about Grease. Classic, you know. And then, of course, Chevy Chase, Vacation, and all those were great movies, too. Just some great times, man. Some great times, you know. I often try to figure out when was it that we saw the last telephone booth? When was the last time you actually seen a telephone booth? You know, they just kind of disappeared. I mean, they were there, and then like one day they were gone. It's like, okay, there's everybody's got cell phones now, so telephone booths became obsolete, and really nobody's even got a landline anymore for telephones for in their house. A few people do. I know a couple that still do, but majority of people, everything is cell phones. So, and of course, if we're going to talk about movies from the 80s, can't be all the happy movies. I was a big horror film buff, and talking about I think the three major movies of the 80s for horror films were Friday the 13th with Jason Voorhees, Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy Krueger, and then of course the ultimate one I think was really the biggest one was Halloween with Michael Myers. They were great, and I think part of what made Halloween such a great movie was Jamie Lee Curtis. I had a big crush on her, man. I just thought she was so I like Jamie Lee Curtis. She wasn't in a lot of them though, but they were all based on her, her character, but they were good movies. I love my horror film, man. I love my horror movies back then, they were really a lot of fun to watch. Horror films anymore, if you notice, a lot of them are getting really sick. They're getting really gross. I mean, they're not scary. They're just slasher movies. They're just too gory and just too. It's like, come on, really? I mean, they're not even scary. It's just make you want to get sick, make you want to puke. It's like, come on, man, that's a little too much. You know what I mean? I'd rather have it be a little spooky, a little mysterious. I know this isn't from the 80s, but they came out with a movie, Jeepers Creepers, which was a really good movie. The first one was really cool. I think they brought him out a little too fast, though. They could have kept him more mysterious a lot longer, and they could have made, part 2 and part 3 before you really got to see what it was, what Jeepers Creepers was. You know what I mean? They could have drug it out a little bit more, made it more mystery as to what this thing is or who this thing is or whatever, instead of bringing it out so fast. Because they kind of sped it up. Let's in a hurry, but they could have really had something good there, I think, if they'd have kept it a little bit more mysterious for that. But same thing with not Michael Myers, with Jason Voorhees. They really had, after part 5, it started getting stupid, because you started getting, Jason takes on this Carrie chick, this chick with these, telekinetic powers, and then Jason takes on New York, and then Jason in outer space, It was like, all right, overkill, But we had a lot of classic movies though, and they're still watched and loved today, and. One of my favorite characters though was from the movies was Anthony Michael Hall, because he did a lot of those movies. He was in most of them. I think he was in Weird Science, he was in 16 Candles, he was in Breakfast Club, he was in The Vacation as Rusty, in the first one. And he did a really good job acting. I thought his acting ability was really good, really, really cool, really good. I gotta get a drink. I got a cup. I've been meaning to bring it out. Like I said I was going to do, brother. Yeah. Oh yeah, brother. Now let's change it up here. Let's do brother, I'll get you in that ring, brother, and all my Hulkamaniacs. You ever notice when he talked, he always talked like he had like a hocker or a bunch of phlegm in the back of his throat. Brother, let me tell you something, brother. I'll get you in that ring, brother, and I will break your half, brother. Oh yeah. Well, what you gonna do when the Hulkamaniacs run wild on you, brother? Ooh yeah. Ooh yeah. Ooh. He was cool there, you gotta admit, he was cool. Well, brother, all the Hulkamaniacs, you know what I mean, brother? Take your vitamins, drink your milk, have your orange juice, and say your prayers before you go to bed at night. Yeah, brother, and you be the ultimate Hulkamaniac. Yeah, it was crazy. It was just crazy. But, loved the 80s. I loved the 70s. It was just the best music, the best times, man. It was just a lot of fun, I was supposed to have a guest on the show today, but, of course, they never seem to have the time at the very last minute. Something comes up, and this is twice that I was supposed to have a guest on the show, and they didn't no-show. So, by the way, I want to remind everybody, all my followers, if you want to be on the show and you want to talk to me and be on the show, let me know. I'm always looking for some guest hosts and some guests to be on the show. Just hit me up and let me know. But you have to be a subscriber. Gotta be a subscriber, man. Gotta get the subscribers. So make sure you subscribe. Gotta make sure you subscribe. Which I should have said that in the beginning, by the way. I should have said that in the beginning, welcome to the edge. Make sure you subscribe, and subscribe, like, and comment. I need that. Come on, like, share, and comment, and all that fun stuff. You know how that goes. Soon we're going to be taking some of the show on the road. We're going to take some trips and doing some really fun things, But another movie we can't forget about. Talking about movies of the 80s, bringing up all these movies. See, I'm a big TV movie person. I love my movies, my TVs, my cartoons. Growing up, was it. But we can't forget about to the future. Of course, that's the DeLorean in the front of the video when the show starts. And the beginning opening theme is the DeLorean going through the time tunnel. So, anyway, they were classic, man. I loved it. I remember when Back to the Future first came out. I actually went to the movie theater by myself in the afternoon. I was bored riding around, wondering what to do, and I went to the movies. Matinee. And I believe it was on like a Saturday or a Sunday or something. I was just out riding around, hanging out by myself, and I said, I'm going to watch this movie. And I went in and I watched it, and I thought it was the coolest freaking movie. I loved that movie and couldn't wait for part 2 to come out. It was so cool. And then part 2 came out, and that was just as cool. I loved that too. Part 3 was a little bit weird. I don't know. I didn't get part 3. I did, but I didn't. I think it would have been better if they'd kept it on the path that they were on with part 1, part 2. You know what I mean? Doing it that way instead of going back like they did, Kind of weird, but Leah Thompson, she was hot, man. She was a hottie. She was a hottie in that. It was 70s and 80s, man. You can't beat the music, can't beat the times. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you don't have the music today at all. Not even close, man. You're talking about, just look at all the long-haired bands, the 70s and 80s, from Led Zeppelin to ZZ Top, to Bad Company to, Motley Crue, Poison, Cinderella. Oh, come on, man. I mean, you just don't get anything better than that. And I always did a mix, though. I would always do country and rock, because I did like country too, I was a country boy, and I liked the country too, and, there were times I liked the George Jones and the Conway Twitty and the Red Lynn and Dolly Parton and, things like that, but then I also liked the James Taylor and Catman Tennille and, all that kind of stuff, Rod Stewart, and everything, but the music today and for the past, almost 30 years, it sucks. And I still listen. That's all I listen to is music from the 70s and 80s. I listen to some older music too, but I don't like this newer music, man. It is just I don't care for it. I don't listen to it, so I don't know a lot of the newer stuff. I stick with all the oldies, man, all the oldies, and I guess now what we used to call rock and roll is now considered easy listening. I think the last time I listened to the radio, I heard like AC/DC on easy listening station. I'm like, what? I'm like, really? But I don't even listen to the radio no more. I do Spotify, and I have all my music on there that I listen to, and it's all like one-hit wonders of the 70s, Seasons in the Sun, Terry Jacks, and Leo Sayer, When I Need You, and all that kind of stuff. And Jim Croce, who don't like Jim Croce back in the 70s, and, that's all I listen to still is that stuff. I don't listen to anything else. Even watching TV, I still watch all the old shows, I still watch, Barney Miller and Mary Tyler Moore and the Andy Griffith Show and Love Boat, and, you name the old shows in the 70s and 80s and I watch it, Starsky and Hutch, that's just what I watch, It's a shame that the kids today, they're taught so differently and you just don't know, and I feel so sad for them, even when it comes to, like, the holidays. I remember we used to have a lot of shows that we grew up with kids that were, you always learn something, but we had fun stuff to watch. I was just noticing over the last couple of years, they don't even show the Christmas shows that we all grew up with. I noticed that like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. I didn't see that being advertised on TV or anything, or Frosty the Snowman, or A Year Without a Santa Claus, any of that kind of stuff. I'm like, where, what's going on here, man? They're taking all that stuff away. And you know what it is? You got the newer adults are finding things that are politically incorrect, so they start doing all this protest and don't want them, and then the TV stations and all are cutting them off, and it's so stupid. Quit with all this politically correct stuff and just go back to the way it used to be. Everybody's so thin-skinned anymore. You joke around with somebody, they get offended so easy. Come on, man, you got to learn to laugh at yourself. Life is too short. It really is. Life is just too short. It's just crazy. It is so crazy. So that's why I love talking about the 70s and 80s, because it really was a good time. The movies were great. You learned something from the movies, and all these coming-of-age movies that we had were great. I always said that if I was raising kids today, if I had any kids to raise, they would not watch TV. They would watch all the stuff that I watched and grew up with. Because it was... there was a certain amount of innocence to the movies, even like the movies I mentioned, The Breakfast Club and 16 Candles and Pretty in Pink and all those movies. There's even Weird Science. The movies, there was a certain amount of innocence in all of those movies. They didn't go too far with the sex stuff and the drugs and all that. I mean, my God, today, the movies today, within the first 5 minutes of a movie, you're seeing boobies flapping around. You're seeing, they're doing drugs and drinking and partying, and it's just they're horrible, and the language is even worse. I mean, yeah, I get mad. I cuss like a sailor sometimes, but when I'm around kids, I try not to. But I mean, just the movies and TV shows that the kids have today is just so horrible. There is no way. Number one, I would allow my kids today, if I was raised any, to watch TV. Unless it was stuff that I put on, like it was one thing I like about YouTube and one thing I like about like Amazon Prime and Peacock and them, you can, program, what they watch. And you can find a lot of the old shows. And I know a lot of people out there will, make fun of the shows that we grew up with like H.R. Puffin stuff and Sigmund the Sea Monster and the Bugaloos. But they were just good, wholesome, fun, and funny shows. You can read into anything and make something out of nothing. And you got to stop. You can't do that. Just look at what it is, look at the big picture, and just be like, that's funny, that's cool, I mean, I remember there was this show, what was it, Barney, when Barney came out, the purple dinosaur show, Barney. Now, I had some little nieces that I used to watch that with them, and I thought it was a cute show. I didn't think there was anything wrong with it. But then somewhere along the lines, some silly-ass adults, when Barney would get in a circle, I forget what he did. He would get in a circle, and they would sing a song or something, and then the other dinosaur, I forget what it was called, the other female dinosaur would come up, from the smoke or whatever. Somewhere they go, oh, it's witchcraft, man. They're having a seance and provoking this, dinosaur or other dinosaur to come up his friend, and then something got out about the guy inside the costume who was doing Barney was gay. So now all of a sudden it became this big deal and this big thing, and oh my God, just take the show for what it was. We had a show very similar to that, and that was on the opening credits of one of my other Blast from the Past, which was the New Zoo Review. I wouldn't have cared if Charlie or Freddie, or Henrietta, if they were gay inside, and that person's that person. I mean, their sexuality didn't matter to me. I liked the show, and they had a good thing. I mean, it taught you something, taught you how to be nice and respectful and kind and courteous and things like that. And it's just crazy, just like with the Boy Scouts. There's this big lawsuit now about the Boy Scouts. If you were molested by your scout leader, phone blah 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 blah, and talk to me, and we can get you money, even if it was 20 years ago. It's like, oh my God, really? Everybody's just so happy and wants to make money. I was in the Boy Scouts, never had no problems. I learned a lot. I was in Indian Scouts and Boy Scouts both, and I learned about respect and to respect your elders and then respect authority, and I really did, man. I mean, but somewhere there's these adults out there who just like the Karens. They call them Karens today. Oh my God, horrible. But anyway, let's get back to the 80s. I don't want to get on this kick too much because I could go on for another hour about that kind of stuff, but just need to bring back some of this wholesome stuff, man. And don't be afraid to let your kids watch those shows. They're still available. Get them out there, let them watch them. They were good shows, to watch. But anyway, I think that's just kind of all I wanted to talk about in this episode here. Watch the very next one, because I'm going to be doing one now. We're going to go back to the urban legends on the next show. We're going to do urban legends, and we're going to talk about the Jersey Devil. The Jersey Devil. Yes, urban legend on the Jersey Devil. That's going to be a fun one. So, and then real soon we're going to be going out on the road exploring and doing some things, and you guys are going to be going with me, and through the video, through the age of magic of the cameras. It's kind of cool. We have this technology now, it's a lot of fun. But anyway, I'm going to leave you with this. Please make sure you subscribe. Need your subscribe, like, and comment. Subscribe, like, and comment. Please like the video because that counts as well. So subscribe and like the video, okay? If there's anything I can start doing a little bit differently or anything, anybody got any ideas or anything, please shoot them at me. Don't be afraid to leave me some comments and talk to me. Let me know what you want me to talk about, what you want to see. So with that being said, I'm getting out of here now, and I'm calling it, and this is the end of the show. Snap into a Slim Jim. Slim Jim. Alright, guys, peace out. Have a nice one. Love ya. And remember, subscribe.